How'd you get to the Northeastern Jewish Center?
Getting directions to Northeastern Jewish War Memorial Center.
True, it doesn't seem like we'll be traveling anywhere too soon these days. But travel back in the day wasn't that easy. If you were lucky, you would find the occasional street signs, provided that they were clear enough to read. Otherwise, you would actually have to stop on the long trek and keep asking people for directions. This was the case for the pilgrim discussed in this week's Torah portion. As he made his way to Jerusalem 3 times a year, there were no signs, there were no directions. He would go from one city to the next, door knocking on every door, until he finally arrived to his cherished destination, to Jerusalem. Yet conversely, in next week's portion, we find the description of another kind of traveler in the Holy Land. We're told that if a man murdered by accident, that we were to prepare for him a number of cities designated as cities of refuge, to which the murderer could flee and thereby escape vengeance by the family of the deceased. Now the Torah tells us, you shall prepare the way for the murderer. And the Midrash explains that what this means is that we must actually prepare clear directions and instructions so that the murderer could find the nearest city of refuge. Now this seems to be so discriminative. In our portion, when we talk about the pilgrim, he must wander from one city to the other until he finally receives the directions and arrives to Jerusalem. However, on the other hand, when the murderer is looking for directions, he finds them. There, the Torah tells us, make sure that you have clear directions so that the murderer can get to the nearest city of refuge without hesitation. Why is the Torah discriminating? Favoring the murderer, yet allowing the pilgrim to wander from one place to the next. I'd like to share a most moving and pertinent answer given by our sages. The discrimination was purposely legislated by the rabbis for the purpose of chinuch, education. The rabbis wanted to make sure that Jewish children in homes throughout the country would have every opportunity to meet with people who were decent and virtuous. But at the same time, they wanted to minimize the opportunity for children to encounter people who had committed such terrible crimes. Therefore, they didn't facilitate the way for the pilgrim, hoping that he would have no choice and be forced to knock at every single door along the way so that children should be able to meet people who are pilgrims. The people who are inspired to go to Jerusalem and sacrifice every comfort along the way to fulfill this special mitzvah. In contrast, they wanted to make sure that in the meantime, no Jewish child would meet a rotzeach, a murderer. They therefore made sure that there were signs across the entire country that would provide the answers to the murderer's questions, so that children wouldn't come across an individual that was a murderer and, God forbid, seek to emulate his ways. I believe that this serves as a most critical message for the time that we find ourselves in right now. As parents, we're trying to multitask, homeschooling our children and looking after them while trying to actually get some work done during the day. It's very easy to just say, you know what, I'll just give my child an iPad or a computer and I'll just let them be. However, the Torah's message serves as a clear reminder of how important it is that we closely monitor our children's interaction with devices and we limit their screen time, especially during their most impressionable years. Friends, this lesson applies not only to our children, but to us as adults as well. Our sages explain that the door in this context, it doesn't only represent the entrances to our homes, but also the entrances to our hearts and our minds. We must shut the door in the face of negativity and open it wide to welcome the positivity of the pilgrim. This lesson serves as a great reminder that life is a journey, and we alone have control of our final destination. So don't blame the pandemic, Siri or Google Maps. Instead, take control of who you let in through your front door. Shabbat Shalom.